Rink Rats, welcome to the Rinkcast, Season 8, Episode 33. I am the Bard, along with the usual cast of characters, Andy Campbell, Sean Fitzgerald, Jimmy O'Malley here. Let's get right to it. We got a very, very special guest tonight. I'm really excited about this one. He is a hockey expert who wears many helmets, not hats, helmets. He co-hosts Morning Cup of Hockey on the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. He's an analyst for Hockey East games on ESPN+, also a fellow UMass Amherst alum like me, and also a fellow Long Islander like me. You can follow him on X at JLazzy23, and that's with two Z's. Say hello to Jonny Lazarus.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you having me on here. And, it's funny that that wears a lot of helmets comment. Colby, my co-host, would have a field day with that one. He tells me I need to wear a helmet everywhere I go. So I know it was meant as a compliment, but I just couldn't help but laugh.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. I'm going to kick things off because one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on was to talk about James Hagens, fellow Long Islander as well.
Yeah.
Each week on our podcast, actually, we've highlighted a player or two who could be the Blackhawks pick at number 3. And this week, Hagens happens to be our focus. And so recently you responded to a tweet related to the possibility that the Islanders could pass on Hagens at 1, who we know, is considered a top 5 pick. And you had responded by saying passing on Hagens seems absolutely crazy to me. You've watched him during your Hockey East broadcasts, and this kid was the consensus top player in the draft as recently as January. So give us your take on Hagens, and if you think the Islanders are seriously considering taking him at number 1 overall.
Listen, full transparency, I didn't watch a lot of Schaefer or Misa this year. I don't tune in to CHL. During draft times, I always promote the college kids because those are the kids I always watch. But that comment, half of it was like joking, half of it was serious. The joking half, I'll just explain the whole thing. The joking half is me like throwing shade at Islander fans. Obviously, as a Ranger fan, like it's all good fun. But a year ago, all I saw and heard from Islander fans was, "Oh my God! Like if we're not a playoff team next year, we got to tank and throw in the towel for James Hagens and get the local product." Now they're fed the number 1 overall pick, and now all of a sudden Islander fans are like, "Oh, we got to take Schaefer or Misa. Like Hagens sucks." Like, what are you talking about? Like it drives me nuts how fans, and again, like Ranger fans, like every fan base does it. I'm not just saying this is Islander fans. Right now, Islander fans are just at the forefront of it, but recency bias just takes over everyone's brain. Mine too. Like it happens to me all the time. And with Hagens, I get the point of you got to take the best player available, and I get that might be Schaefer. These franchise-altering defensemen don't come around often, but I don't know if he's a sure thing. I don't know if any of them are a sure thing. There's not one guy in this draft that's been labeled as the generational talent. They're all very good players, and maybe Schaefer and Misa are ahead of Hagens. But to me, there's no clear-cut choice. And if the Islanders have the option to grab the guy who is born and bred to be an Islander, why not take the shot at him? Like, sure, maybe he didn't have the most points in the NCAA, but like, you're not taking the best player in the draft for next year. You're taking the guy who's going to be the difference maker in 2 or 3 years, or someone that can help your franchise for the next 8 years. And that's why, like, the draft to me, the whole thing is it's a gamble. Who are you willing to gamble on? And if I'm in that chair, I'm gambling on the kid who wants to be an Islander the most. So that's my argument of it. I've seen so many drafts gone wrong as a Ranger fan. And, that's why I know like there's no sure thing. So why not take the chance on the guy who has preached how bad he wants to wear your jersey? And again, there is a lot of pressure that comes with that, right? Like sometimes playing for your hometown team, being drafted by your hometown team might not go over well. But for a franchise, also an organization that's like, never really been in the media world as far as like players doing interviews, or I guess, it's who the GM has been for the past however many years. So it's like, not as fun of an organization, but like being close to the Islanders, like my whole life, there's a lot of great personalities on that team. There's a lot of great things about that organization, and they've been the laughingstock, honestly, of the NHL they were, not anymore, but they had a few years of it. So to me, it just there's a lot that goes into it in taking Hagens, but I get the other side of the argument. But just to round out this whole little spiel, the draft has maybe 1 in every 5 years there's a sure thing. But I don't know if this year is one of those years where there's a sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no Bedard, no Celebrini. It's not that kind of draft. I guess one of the things that we talk about, and I'd be curious your take on this, Johnny, is, I mean, it seems like Schaefer shot up out of nowhere, and we talked about we've never seen someone get injured, not play, and then their draft stock rises. I mean, it's just like it seems almost antithetical to the whole thing. But I mean, you're hearing a lot. The Islanders might not have very much depth in their prospect pool. If you're Matthew Darche, would it be too much to gamble on Hagens being like, wow, the hometown guy, this might be the only time that I have a number 1 pick in my entire career? Do you even entertain trading back knowing that, that the Sharks would probably take Schaefer?
Yeah, it's a tough call. This is probably the 1 year where having the first overall pick comes with the most pressure.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a brand new, like, what new GM gets handed the first pick? Doesn't really happen often. Right. So it's a tough seat to sit in. But that said, too, like, one thing the Islanders certainly need is a stronger blue line. They only have 3 defensemen that are locked up right now, and those guys are Pulock, Pelech, and Mayfield, and none of those are really like.
Yeah, none of them are number 1D.
No. So that's why I think trading up a chance at Schaefer is a harder choice. But, to your point, Andy, like, again, I heard about Schaefer earlier in the year, like Jeff Marek, who's a colleague of ours, like, he is dialed in on OHL, CHL, WHL, NEHL up in Canada. And he was saying Schaefer from the beginning of the year, like, he was like, this kid can fly. And again, all the highlights you're seeing, like, he looks like he's a pretty legit player. I think he played 19 games this year in the OHL for the Otters. So again, that's a gamble too. But if you look at the frame, you look at the highlights, and again, like, I'm no scout, right? It looks like he is the best option to be a franchise-altering defenseman. So for a team that needs those guys, it's hard to pass up on, I would say.
Yeah.
Jimmy, you want to?
Yeah, I'll bring this back to Hagens real quick. I think if you were to ask anyone in June of 2024, who do you think the first overall pick in 2025 would be? I think 95 out of 100 scouts and execs would say James Hagens. What has changed since then? I know people are saying, like, maybe his scoring dried up in college or other, prospects have, caught up to him. But what's the main factor to this? Basically, seemed like a guaranteed Hagens number 1 guy to it feels like he's shuffling down in a lot of scouts and executives' eyes.
Well, I think it's just on eye test, it's dominance. Numbers are numbers for sure, but, like, Hagens didn't have the year in college that Macklin had. Like, right. Macklin was a standout player every shift, every night, every game, where Hagens had those moments for sure. Like, he had games where I don't want to say he necessarily took over, because he was, kind of under the or in the shadow of Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault a little bit. Like, those two were pretty much, the ones taking over every night. But he had a lot of big games and big moments in that. I think he had the tying goal or go-ahead goal in that first round game against Bentley in the NCAA tournament, which obviously sent them into the Elite Eight. I don't even know if we call it that in hockey, honestly, but I'll call it that for now. But what you've seen, I guess, out of Schaefer and Misa were more dominance. I'm just going to keep using that word. And again, like, I think part of that is a little bit unfair. Unfair is the wrong word to use too. But, like, you put those guys in a college game, are they dominating? I think the levels are certainly different. And to me, I never played in the OHL or in the, WHL or QMJHL, but knowing what I know about Division I college, like, I still put NCAA Division I over any sort of junior hockey.
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree with that.
Average age.
Yeah. And that, but I think when you just look at Macklin and you look at the year Hagens had, like, they're not really, I don't want to say they're not close, but there's certainly a significant difference in the years that those two had. Like, I remember, I did a BU game at UMass when Macklin was there. He had 2 goals in the third period, completely took over, and then they came back from down against UMass on the road. Like, it was just a complete, elite player taking over a game. Cole Hudson did the same thing this year, even though he's a second round defenseman. But I don't know if Hagens ever had that moment where he took over a game, and I think that's what you look for in a first overall pick. So I'm sure that Schaefer and Misa probably had those moments. But for me, in the games that I watched, I can't say I remember Hagens having one.
Yeah. One question I was thinking, we've actually kicked this around for a while about what it would cost for a team like the Hawks to move up from 3 to 1 so they could assure themselves potentially of getting Michael Misa. Now, this draft, I think you had said it, and I think we'll all agree with that, is the fact that there's no sure thing in this draft. There isn't a Bedard or a Celebrini in there. So, but the value of the number 1 pick is what it is. So do you think that value is essentially going to be a little bit lower this year because there is no pure number 1 pick or more surefire number 1 pick? How would you sort of look at that from a trade perspective if you put like a GM hat on?
I would think so. What are the Blackhawks really getting at 1 that they won't get at 3? Is it that significant? I'd say if it's like here and here, it's worth it, but it seems like it's more like that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm trying to for whatever reason, my mind went to Cale Makar. Because Cale was, Cale was there my freshman year, and everyone was like so unsure of him because he was, he went 4th overall. I'm not saying everyone was so unsure. Everyone knew how good he was, but he went 4th overall out of the AJHL, which is a tier 2 junior league in Canada. And, nobody had understood like how legitimate his competition was. I remember every night my freshman year, we're looking at scores because all we heard about was Cale coming in the following year. It's like the Brooks Bandits just took a 9-0 lead and Cale Makar is his 5th point of the night. And we're like, okay, who's this kid playing against that he has 5 points? You know what I mean? But that's where like you kind of separate Hagens and, Misa, and because the competition levels are different. But, I'm sure everyone criticized whoever was the GM of Colorado at that time. I think it might have been, I don't even know who it was. It might have been Sakic or McFarland still. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, they're taking a kid out of the AJHL. Like that was a talking point, and I know Cale's numbers were insane, but, no one knew. I don't think anyone could have guessed he'd be the best defenseman of all time. But like, point being, back to the original question, like I don't know if Misa's not, because the numbers are so inflated because of where he played.
Yeah.
If it's like worth giving up that much because there's that much separation. Like I just again, like it's so hard for me to actually give like a educated response because I didn't watch them all year, but that's just my hockey knowledge. Like,
Yeah. And that's totally fair because I think it's just quantifying or qualifying what that much actually is. You said the term that much. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, we don't even know what that means. Like, is it going to be 2 prospects and 3 draft picks, or is it 1 and 1? Whatever it is. So, yeah.
And again, like, we're already talking about Gavin McKenna for next year.
Yeah.
Like, he seems to be a sure thing, right?
Yes.
Like that's what it seems to be. But again, he's playing the WHL, and I want to see that kid play in college. I want to see what he looks like up against men.
State.
Yeah, the rumor is he's going to Penn State.
Yeah.
Who
wouldn't want to see that?
Be awesome.
Speaking of college, Johnny, thanks for coming on. Do you think the top 3 guys like Misa, Schaefer, and Hagens are going to go back to college next year, or do you think they're coming directly out to the NHL? Do you think Schaefer and Misa are going to go to college next year? Period.
Yeah, I haven't heard any rumblings of that. I doubt it. If you're Hagens, like, because Ryan Leonard did it, I could see Hagens doing it. Did I say that? I don't know why I feel like I stuttered there. But from what we've seen in years past, like taking that second year of college, Cale's another guy. Cale had, I think, 23 points freshman year, came back to college. Hobie Baker, 55 points, dominated, comfortable in the NHL. Like that second year does wonders for guys. Charlie McAvoy, Quinn Hughes, I think, did too. I think there's no harm in it. And, every college coach will tell you it's a marathon, not a sprint to get to the NHL. Like, it's always going to be there. And college is, a short window of your life. And now it's different too, because guys can actually make money. Like Gavin McKenna, wherever he goes, is probably going to make like $200K, which is so like on top of a free education. So times have changed, but I think it's always beneficial depending on what you're like. The Islanders are different though, because the Islanders are a team that could make the playoffs next year. So like whoever they draft at one, they might want right away to like build up the excitement and have fans. Also attendance is always something that's big, right? Barn,
Yeah.
So I think it's different depending on the organization. But like if you're Chicago, like why rush the kid?
It's interesting.
That's a good call. Just another thought on that college piece. I mean, Caden Lindstrom is now going to Michigan State after going last year and going 4th overall. There's these rumors now that Porter Martone, Penn State, has thrown $250K at him to try to woo him next year.
Yeah.
Given your ties to UMass, given your ties to hockey, is the direction that this is going. I mean, college hockey's never been better than it is right now.
Yeah.
And it's just going to get better and better. It'll just be really interesting to see what effect this has, not only on the CHL, but what effect this has on like the BCHL, what effect this has on the NAL, what effect this has in Division III college hockey right now, where you're seeing, teams like Hobart, William, and Smith win national championships when, they've got 8-9 guys that are 25 years old.
Yeah. I mean, that's like where, it's funny. Like I've talked about this a lot in the grand scheme of the college landscape, but I don't often talk about it for like my own perspective. Because I played in the North American League for 2 years. I got cut by the USHL 2 years in a row. So if this had happened when I was playing, it diminishes my chances of playing Division I.
Yeah.
So I would have been devastated if this happened when I was playing. Because again, like I was not a highly touted recruit. Like I played, top 6 minutes in the NAL, but like those weren't always Division I players. There was no guarantee, and I had 1 year left of my eligibility in junior. So like, God knows what would have happened. But I think the NAL becomes a Division III league. You're going to rarely see Division I commits out of the North American League. Honestly, you might rarely see Division I commits out of any Tier 2 junior league. That's just how it's going to be. But Greg Carvel, the head coach of UMass, like he said something interesting too in one of our media calls this year. He said like anything going on with the CHL merger with the NCAA right now, like for UMass at least, probably won't happen within the next like 2 years because they have their recruiting classes like already committed basically for the next 2 years. So you won't see any differences for the most part. And UMass actually does a lot of recruiting in Europe anyway. They have a lot of European players like Don Zlismelis has become a big name, obviously around after the world and whatnot. And they got him from Latvia, so Michael Harabel, another one, the goalie who's going to be in the NHL. Like, so every school is a little bit different in the way they recruit, and relationships they have, and there's pipelines and all that kind of stuff. But like I feel for the kids in the North American League that even have Division I commitments already. Those might not come through.
Right.
If it's a verbal commitment, it's not gonna. That's the biggest issue, and everything is just the loyalty in college hockey now. Like, the portal, like, because when I transferred, I had to sit out for a year.
Yeah,
and travel with the team. I was so fucking depressed. Oh, I didn't mean to curse.
You're fine. Bardo does it all the time.
All right, whatever.
I do it all.
I was so fucking depressed that year. Like, I'm happy that kids don't have to go through that anymore. Because I was like, I first of all, you go to a new school, so you're leaving behind a lot of friends. And sure, you make, your 25, 30 friends already in the team, blah, blah, blah. But when you're trying to get adjusted to a new school and your team goes away for a weekend and you're kind of left on campus alone with nobody that it's like no car, it's very depressing. So for kids to be able to transfer now, go right in and play, like that's great. Like I think that's the best thing for them mentally. But the fact that like, I've heard junior players talk about, oh, well, I'll just commit to this school for a year and I'll like do well in the shittier conference and I'll commit to a better school after a good year my first year. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's not
crazy to me.
Well, it's like free.
That's just the day and age now.
It's free agency now, so it's really like the pros.
Well, and with the new NCAA settlement, like that schools are going to have $20 million to allocate to pay athletes.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like the majority of it's going to go to football and basketball, but hockey's still going to have some money to pay guys directly.
Well, the Big Ten schools especially.
Yeah.
That's where all the money is. That's why you're going to see Penn State, Michigan State. That's why sorry to cut you off, Sean, but
no, you're good.
That's right.
You're not really hearing this out of Hockey East. You're mainly hearing this out of the Big Ten because they have all the football money.
The rich will get richer.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
The way it's going to go. It's going to be great. And Penn State is really making a move with hockey right now. I mean,
Who that was my dream. Who the hell would not want to go there?
Yeah, be a
You
nice
know?
place to go and play.
Yeah, they get I don't know what that arena sits, maybe like 8,000 people. There's fans there every night. The campus has like 50,000 people. The football's great. The partying's great. The bars are great. It's got everything. That place is unbelievable.
And that program has come so far in the 20 years it's been a Division I program.
No, I think it's less. I think it's like I think it's like 2013 maybe. It's like
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I visited there my junior year of high school, and the rink wasn't even built yet. So that was 2013. Yeah, that was 2013.
Nice.
I'm so old. Mullen Center was like in its second year when I was in UMass.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Remember the name
Rob Bono?
Huh?
You remember the name Rob Bono by any chance? He was a star forward for UMass, and Brad Norton was there, who is the brother of Jeff Norton, former Islander defenseman. So that's who was playing, because they were literally just moving into becoming a D1 school again. So for hockey, but I digress.
No, Mullen Center is a hidden gem as far as college hockey arenas go.
Nice
that
facility.
Place is
beautiful.
So fun to play in. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. To kind of just bring this back to Hagens real quick.
Jimmy loves Hagens.
He loves
I love a guy, I love a guy that shares my first name. So the big thing for me is just, what is his weaknesses? I mean, I'm sure, what are his weaknesses? I've heard, obviously, on the show you've mentioned, he just doesn't take over games. A lot of people are concerned about the size. I think after a scouting report, they said he was 5'10" and a quarter, 186 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, what other concerns do you think are warranted, and what other ones do you genuinely think are just overblown? Like, people are just reading way too into it about Hagens.
I actually haven't really read the criticisms. So I mean, listen, I'm not dialed into the draft right now at all. Like, you guys would know way better than I do. I just kind of go series by series, and like once this cup final's over, I'll do all my draft stuff then. I've been doing the USHL and all that kind of stuff. But with Hagens specifically, I'm sure the critics are saying he probably doesn't win his battles because he's a little bit weaker. Maybe doesn't have the hardest shot. Those are probably just what I would say off the top of my head. But his skating to me is pretty elite. Great edges, great vision, really good first pass. Is solid defensively as well. Gets up the ice very quick. Good off the rush. Below the tops of the circles in the offensive zone, makes a lot of plays. Again, like he doesn't have the speed of Ryan Leonard or the physicality of Ryan Leonard. And I know he was like looked at as the best player not in the NHL this year, pretty much. But he just does. To me, he seems to do all the little things well. Like trying to think like who a good NHL comparison would be for Hagens. What do they say like on in the blogs you're reading? Like, who are they comparing him to?
The names I'm hearing are Clayton Keller and Jack Hughes are the big.
I'd say Clayton Keller is a pretty good comparison. And Clayton Keller, again, like even playing against Clayton Keller, like he was dominant at BU, and he was a smaller guy too. But Clayton Keller, because of the market he plays in, he's not a talked about name, but that guy's a fucking stud. Like, he's sick.
It's pretty.
I would say Clayton Keller is a bit of a better goal scorer than Hagens is. But that's a good similarity, I would say, for those two. But I'd say that Hagens is actually a better skater than Keller is. So there's things that you can mix and match. But if my team is getting Clayton Keller, I'd be pretty happy. I know he's not, again, like a guy who's been in the playoffs because it's the team he's been on. But 80, 90 points every year almost once he's been established.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, speaking of your team, before we let you go, and we obviously greatly appreciate it that you joined us, I got to ask about your Rangers.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about this offseason. Are they going to start to, reshape and remake this team with Zibanejad getting traded, or what are you forecasting? What do you think ends up happening? You're pretty dialed into the team. I gotta hear your POV on that one.
Well, they started it already, right? Like, it all started last year, which is pretty uncommon, what Chris Drury did. But listen, this team is not looking to miss the playoffs again. That's why they brought in the coaching staff they did. Granted, I don't really know. I don't really know how I feel about the coaching staff yet, to be honest, just because I still think the roster needs a lot of construction, or reconstruction, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But I saw Larry's article about Keandre Miller being gone and whatnot. I know Kreider and Mika to me are the first two that have to go. Like if you're gonna change something up in the room, it's them. Like they've been around the longest. Clearly, when they are at their best, this team is still not good enough. I don't think they're elite first line players in the NHL anymore. 3 years ago, I was making a completely different argument. I thought Mika Zibanejad was a top 5, top 10 center in the league 3-4 years ago. But sometimes things just phase out a little bit. I don't necessarily want to see them go away from Keandre. I'd like to see a full season of Keandre Miller and Adam Fox as a D pair. I don't think that was given enough. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess leeway. Those two, when they played together in the beginning of the year, they looked good together. And then Laviolette just kept going back to Fox and Linger and Fox and Soucy. And then when they were down a goal in the third period, he paired them together for a goal. Like, why not just let them play the whole game and see what they can do? So I would like to see a year of that to see if that helps Keandre Miller just a little bit. Because, in his years here, he's been paired with Trouba. And then, this year, a little bit with Will Borgen, who I'm a big fan of. Actually, I love Will Borgen's game. But much different than Adam Fox.
Yeah. What are they going to do? What are they going to do about Kreider?
Yeah, I just don't know what team is going to want Kreider right now. His stock will never be as high as it was a couple of years ago when he scores 52 goals, and he's not a 52 goal, 36 goal player. Like that's not who he is, and again, like those are the outliers. Those 3 years, right? Like his career, he's really been like a 20 goal, 25 goal scorer, and he had 3 really strong seasons, and that's because the power play was automatic. This year we saw the power play go to shit and Kreider gets much quieter. Yep. So I don't know what team is necessarily trying to bring on a guy who, makes 6.5 for one more year and he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
Like, is there I'm trying to think of one team that, and again, like he's not a guy that like necessarily dumps the puck in and goes and hits a guy in a forecheck. Like it's not really his game. And that's what's frustrating because he has the legs and the physicality to do that. That's why
it'll come down to the Rangers probably eating some of his, his cap number. So it'll have to be that. But
does he have a full NMC? So he calls the shots.
Yeah, him and me could both have it. So that's what's difficult. But like the fan base, I don't think the fan base will be excited until those two are gone. Yeah. I think just after this year, there is such a bad taste left in most people's mouths that seems to be the first thing to do.
Yeah.
But the Johnny, real quick, get better.
Yeah. Who do you got tonight? Who do you got for the series?
I had Panthers in 6, so I feel pretty good about it. I have the Panthers tonight. But to me, this is such a hard series to predict. Like I have no idea what the hell is going to happen. So, and that's when it's most fun.
Totally
so
right.
I'm looking forward to tonight. Don't know how the ice will be. I think the ice is certainly a factor in Florida from what I've gathered. Should be more of a dump and chase kind of game, but we'll see. I think Florida does pull it out tonight, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time. Everybody tune in Morning Cup of Hockey on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. JLazzy23 on Twitter. Follow him. We appreciate it. Join us again if you don't mind.
Yeah, always. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. And
you're the best.
And Barty, I'll see you around the neighborhood, all right?
Of course you will. All right. Talk to you.
See you guys.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny.
Great stuff.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, he certainly knows his hockey. He's pretty dialed.
He does.
Selling me on Hagens already. I don't know what to do. We got some more stuff, folks. We got some more Hagens stuff coming up. We have a couple questions that have come in kind of during the show. No roids, just rage. Welcome back, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Thinking if we can trade up to either 1 or 2 to get Misa, give up 3rd overall, Kaiser, and a 25th overall for Misa. Jimmy, this came up a lot today in our chat group. What do you think of this kind of notion, the whole trading up thing? Probably take a little bit more than Wyatt Kaiser to be involved.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I love the trade. If the Islanders said yes to this trade, I'm running to the bank with it, and I'm feeling like I'm stealing. But I mean, I talked about this earlier in the chat. The Blackhawks are so chock full in terms of quantity of prospects. They're in the point in the next probably 2 drafts where it is just quality. Now, if you can get Misa and still be in a position where you own your own first-round pick, which will probably be a top 10 pick, you'll still be in the running for a guy like McKenna or Dupont. You should probably go for it. I think a fair trade to get up and get Misa would be exactly as No Roy's Just Rage said, 3rd overall Kaiser, 25th. And I would probably throw in maybe the 34th and Florida's first-round pick next year. Like it really will cost that to get all the way to the first. Because I, as we talked about in this show, I know it's kind of a strange draft where whoever's first overall pick is probably not going to be the consensus first overall pick, even if it is Schaefer. But it's still the first overall pick. There's value in the name alone.
Yeah.
Getting the number 1 pick and getting whoever you want of the litter, who I believe would be Misa, you just got to pay up. And I'm willing to pay 3rd, 25th, 34 Kaiser, and the Florida pick next year and get Misa and not apologize for it. I think that's getting closer to fair value. I've heard also rumors you might have to, instead of Kaiser, you might have to put up a guy like Kevin Korchinski, which I'm not a fan of. I'm a big fan of keeping Korch, but that's the reality of the deal. The Islanders are in a situation where they need prospects everywhere, and they also need NHL ready young players. Kaiser is one, but Korch also, you can make the argument, has the higher ceiling and could be of more interest to a team like the Islanders.
Najee.
Hi, Gabe.
He's here.
How's it going, boys?
What's going on? I do have to give a shout out to my buddy Daniel Kramer, who I appreciate joining us and tuning in. He was commenting about what Johnny was talking about regarding Kreider, because I know Daniel's a huge Ranger fan. But like I said towards the end, is that I think the Rangers are going to really have to swallow a lot of money in that. I mean, you're talking about somebody acquiring him, and they're going to probably have to only take about $3 million to that deal. So yeah, I mean, he really is broken down. He's 34. I mean, if you want him as a middle 6 guy, maybe a third liner, that's okay. But no one's going to pay that full contract for sure, even if it's 1 year left.
I see Kreider as the guy, kind of like how Arizona used to take on dead contracts back in the day. He's kind of a walking dead contract. I think the selling point is you trade him to a team that sucks. Let's say, I don't know. Who's
the Hawks?
Chicago Blackhawks?
Yeah.
Maybe the Sharks, Nashville,
Sucks.
Philly, like a team, and you'd be like, hey, I'll swallow half the contract and you can take him for a year, and maybe at the deadline, if he shows value, you can recoup some value as well. But if you're the Rangers, you're trading Kreider and you're going to lose that trade. It almost would be kind of the the Marian Hossa to Arizona trade. Like you're going to have to lose that trade to get rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swip, I want to go back to the trade request. Jonny Lazarus actually just sold me. I don't think you make the move for Misa. I don't think there's that much space between him and Hagens.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm thinking if you're going to use assets, you're going to use them in later rounds to find lottery tickets that you think are better. But I think in the top 3, you're guaranteed to have a decent player. So I don't think Misa is that much better than Hagens after what Johnny said.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I think, Jimmy, you've said this before too. You might be better off the idea of staying at 3 and then trying to move your later first round pick and move up and use assets to do that.
Yeah. I mean, look at last year's draft. I mean, Blackhawks traded up twice in the first round. They went from 20 to 18 and they traded back in the first round to get Merrick Van Acker. I mean,
right.
That's kind of how Kyle Davidson rolls. He really
and they tried to make that move to get Demidov too.
Yeah, like he really wants to swing big and get back into the first round because he understands after pick 30, it really does become a crapshoot.
That's when
There's also 2 schools of thought when you look at these guys, you evaluate them. Is that the gap in terms of talent may be here, but if the Blackhawks are looking at this and say, you know what, we get that people are talking about it this way, but we absolutely love Misa. If they love him, they will go up and get him. That's the difference. It's a matter of we can think about it you're thinking about it in 2 different ways. It's yes, the gap in talent may be small, but if they love the guy, then they're going to get him. If they don't love him, then no, they'll stay.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe they're so set on Frundell or Hagens or someone else that they know is just going to be there at third, they're like, oh, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
if
whatever.
Misa somehow drops, great. But I have this guy that I love at 3 that I don't have to move at. Cool. But if, again, as Bardo said, it's like if it's Misa or bust, Kyle Davidson is going to put every chip onto the table and say, I'm getting Misa at 1, come hell or high water.
Yeah, and Jimmy, though, I agree with you. I think it's more likely that they do stay and use that 25th pick to move up and try to and see if somebody makes like an Oliver Moore type fall and they jump on that or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard a guy like what's his name? A lot of people have Victor Eklund, Ironton Fernando's teammate, making a drop. I think people are really concerned about his size. He's like 5'7", 5'8", 168 pounds. Like a lot of people are worried about him. I like guys like Michael Spence and Jack Nesbitt. You know, those are guys that are interesting in that early 20s range. I even like Ravensburgen. I know the Blackhawks aren't goalie, hungry, but I don't think you can have too many goalie prospects that you can work on in the background. And if he's worth a late first, I think you can make an argument for him. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think we're not really talking about is, do we have to trade up to 1 to get Misa? Maybe the Islanders really are, enthused with Hagens, and we just don't have to do anything.
Well, who's to say the Sharks aren't either? I don't know.
Who knows?
What if the Sharks are like, well, we actually like Hagens over Misa? Who knows?
Who knows? I mean,
no idea.
It's just, this is a draft where I keep looking at it, and every day I wake up, I'm like, my mind's completely changed on how it's going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
There's the script is destroyed. There's no Bedard at 1. There's no Celebrini at 1. It's not even like 23 where people are like, holy crap, Fantilli dropped to 3. Like, there's no guy that's going to drop to 3.
Yeah.
It's just
so that
really
weird up top. That draft was loaded up top.
No,
it was what Carlson went to that year, right?
Carlson, then it was Fantilli, and then Will Smith. I remember that.
Yeah. I just and who knows, because I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm going to butcher it. Desnoyers.
Desnoyers.
He may go second. They're talking. Somebody was talking. I don't remember who it was, but somebody was saying that he might go second overall, because he apparently killed it in the interviews. And look, let's take that with a grain of salt, because interviews are not going to necessarily really boost your stock. But who knows? I mean, these guys, all these organizations handle the combine and those situations differently. So that type of leadership, they may want that. Who knows? But they want a second line center versus taking maybe the more talented and more first line type of player in Misa. Who knows?
Well, we talked about Mike Greer possibly loving a guy like Porter Martone, who was his style of player.
Yeah.
That's the way Mike Greer played. So who knows? Who knows, folks?
Senile Uncle Al said that Desnoyers is having wrist surgery or something, so you don't know what's going on there.
What was that thing Eric sent in the chat? Like, there are some scouts and executives that have Hagens as far down as 7-8. Like, it's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
The Flyers think they can get him at 11.
Really, legitimately, some people do. I think
I don't see
with
that.
a draft like this, people really start to big brain it. They really start to big brain it. They're like, I'm smartest in the room. Let me throw out the hottest take possible. And of course, these scouts might be throwing out smoke screens, and execs might be throwing out smoke screens.
It's lying season, as somebody put in the chat. It's lying season. Everybody lies about everything.
Yeah.
And if one of
be like, oh, come on, Hagens is the 6th best forward. I have the 7th overall pick. I really hope people fall for it. That kind of stuff.
If any of these top 5 guys that we've talked about falls below 6 or whatever, you're going to start to see teams start to move up or try to move up, because and they can start a bidding war there, because those guys probably, that's where the gap starts. After those first 5, the gap is going to get so wide.
Yeah. It's going to be a really fun draft. I'm very excited for our live Rinkcast draft party hosted by me, James O'Malley. I'm going to plug that real quick. In about 2-3 weeks, gentlemen, get ready.
Shameless plug.
Hashtag shameless plug.
Show. Do you have anything else on Hagens for us, Jimmy? I know we kind of talked about
I do have
if there's
a couple things, I guess.
Couple tidbits that we didn't get to on him. So this is a big James Hagens show.
Yeah, big James Hagens. I'll just run through
his height.
Yeah, his height officially from the combine. This came out this week. 5'10.5", 186 pounds. So a little short, but not as short as I was honestly worried about. I was hearing like 5'8.5" for the longest time.
But Jimmy, one thing to jump in on that we were fascinated by was the fact that he's 186. And who was the other player that we looked at that was also 186?
Matthew Schaefer. He's 6'1", 186.
I mean, that's crazy.
And then Frondell's a bulldog.
Yeah, he's 6'1" 1/4", 203 pounds.
Wasn't O'Brien around that weight too?
Martone and Frondell have the exact same weight. Martone's like 2 inches
like a
tall.
fire hydrant. I mean, that's what he's built like.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like James Hagens, all the rankings I could find had him like top 2 or 3, except Craig Button had him at 8th. Craig Button does not like the guy for some reason. Like both people like Rachel Dory has him at 3rd. Central Scouting has him the 3rd highest North American skater. Elite Prospect 4th. Bob McKenzie has him at 2nd. You know, the big things that I could find from like hockey writers, Peter Berashini, my favorite guy on the planet, because I love to say his name differently every week. You know, strengths, as Johnny mentioned today, skating, agility, edge work, playmaking, skill, creative, great with the puck, great off the puck, and he's great on the rush. Weaknesses was, as we mentioned, size. He's a little, he can force plays a little bit. He likes to like be aggressive, but that can be overly aggressive. And he, as Johnny mentioned on the show, he just needs to regain that scoring touch he had in the USHL. I mean, UNES national development team. Like, look at the difference in stats between 2024 and then like this season at Boston College. Like at Boston College, he was a point per game guy, 37.
Per game guy, yeah, still pretty good.
37 and 37. You go to his stats at the the national development team, 58 games, 102 points.
Yeah, that's wild.
39 goals. He was absurd.
World Juniors, he was pretty darn good too.
World Juniors, he was great.
Really fun to watch at World Juniors. So I mean, if that's the guy at 3, great.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing.
I'm bummed out. You know.
I mean, here's the thing. People say he didn't dominate, but you know what? We look at NHL players or players at any level, and what do we think of when we hear, okay, this guy was a point per game? I mean, we think extremely highly of the person. Whether or not he dominated physically, I mean, I probably wouldn't expect that, but I mean, he's also only a freshman. He's 18 playing against men. So Johnny said it. I mean, the NCAA is not is a hard league to play in. So
we mentioned it, like the comparison to like Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller, like, he's not dominant. He's like one of like he's a great contributor on Utah. But like people don't look at him and go, oh, he's a dominant guy. He doesn't take over the game, but he's still great. Good to hear now, Royce. I have
he's merely freshman.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
Verb pipe. We were merely freshmen.
But yeah, I mean,
I was hoping Sean would sing it.
Everyone's singing his praises. Everyone's calling him Jack Hughes, Clayton Keller. Rachel Dory also had Maddie Bernier. I think that's how you say his name, out of Seattle. So these guys are like solid.
He's American.
Beaniers. Yeah, whatever. Shut up.
Maddie
B. So these guys are like solid top line centers who like you don't think is extremely dominant, but they're great. Like I think the best thing about him is that his floor is top 6 center. Like he's at worst, like Rachel Dory said, at worst, he's one of the NHL's best second line centers. At worst. Mm-hmm. So when I think of Hagens, this is what I like most about Hagens. He's the most sure bet, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to get anything lower than a really good second line center out of him if you choose to draft him at 3, which I'm very cool with him at 3. Everyone knows I'm big Anton Frondell, but like Frondell is 1A, Hagens is 1B to me. Like if I see Hagens with a Blackhawks jersey on June 27th, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with that. So I also agree with everything Gate has to say. So
yeah, I do too. Hey, quiet down.
Worlds of insight.
I love listening to you guys, and I got to say, like, I was watching the whole Laz part, and I didn't want to jump in because like you guys are doing great, and I didn't want to get in the middle of it. But you guys did a great job with Laz. Like that was great great
Thank
stuff.
you. He was
So
awesome.
you guys did a great job.
He's a good
Appreciate
dude. Hey, Gate, who's the top goaltender going in the draft this year?
I don't even know. Right now, it's probably some guy that's going to go in like the 3rd round because you haven't really heard a name.
That's
Bob
Ravensburg
Anderson,
in
Jr.
disrespect.
They drop so quick, and people get caught up. They forget about goalies.
Hey, goalies have feelings too.
Goalies are
Allegedly.
They're people too.
Some of them don't believe in dinosaurs.
But something you guys are kind of talking about earlier was with like the moving up thing. I hate to go all the way back to the beginning, but like next year they have 2 first-round draft picks and 3 second-round draft picks. You can leverage some of that to move up in this draft if you really find a guy that you really want to move up into the teens or whatever. You got plenty of picks next year that you might not need as many next year. Because they may be further down the line. So you might be able to leverage some of those in as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they have 5 second-round picks in the next 2 years. 9 picks in the first 2 rounds in the next 2 years.
That's outrageous.
It really is. Considering how many picks they have already had in the first 2 rounds in the Kyle Davidson era, like it just doesn't feel like it's stopping.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Next year's first-round pick is probably more valuable than even this year's right now because if you think about it, if we think the Blackhawks are going to be in a lottery team again, that's another lottery ticket to potentially move up to first overall, isn't it?
The draft Gavin McKenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, whoever has number 1 overall, when McKenna's on the board, they're taking
no one's moving for that.
No one's moving from 1 or 2.
That's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that they're going to package it. I'm saying if the Hawks are a lottery team and it's unprotected, then therefore, that team is acquiring a chance to get to get McKenna.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You can look at it that way.
Yeah, interesting question here on offer sheets. I forgot who said it the other day, or maybe we were chatting about it on our DMing, but something to the effect that people are expecting less offer sheets this year, or that usually it's competitive teams and not teams like the Blackhawks right now that are offer sheeting a bunch of random guys to get in bidding wars. I don't know. I mean,
What is there, one offer sheet a year? I mean,
their offer sheets
are 1 is 0. So
yeah, when I think of
it sounds like Turka might get traded though. I mean,
I think you're more likely to see that guys get traded, but Knees I don't think is going anywhere. And
Turka,
I'm prioritizing Matthew Nyes if I'm Toronto. You want that guy back.
Yeah. And whenever I think of like a team in the Blackhawks situation offer sheeting, I think of remember when Edmonton offer sheeted Dustin Penner back in 2007 and they gave up a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round pick to the Ducks and they went literally nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying, Nyes and Peterka are Dustin Penner, but it's like
no,
Edmonton didn't move the needles.
Doug Wilson in San Jose did it to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, he offer sheeted Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Yep, and then they had to trade Andrew Ladd to keep Hjalmarsson.
And they walked away from
They had to let Niemi go.
From Anthony Niemi.
Yep.
No, but
which is fine. I would have traded Niemi for Hjalmarsson any day of the week. So
anyone would.
It all worked out. It all worked out.
No, but going back to offer sheeting RFAs, so like the compensation is based on how much money you spend. So like if it's 7 to 9 million, you have to give up a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then like 4 to 7, it's 1st and 3rd. So like it doesn't make sense, I think, for the Blackhawks to do that. Just because you're going to lose draft compensation in the future and you have to pay somebody.
When you could probably pay them less
just trade for that
overall. Yeah, you could pay, you could say, oh yeah, I'll give you a 1st round draft, but I'll give you a 1st round draft pick now. And I'll give you a 2nd round draft pick 2 years down the road.
Right.
And I'll give you this player.
Right.
And then you don't have to give up all your draft capital. And you could probably get rid of players you were trying to get rid of anyway.
Right.
And with the cap going up as much as it's going to go up, all the teams are going to have cap room. So a lot of these teams are going to be able to match some of these deals.
Right. So swing a deal, a trade, like Bardo's been saying.
Yeah. I would just trade.
Swing a deal.
And I was bringing this up. The bad thing about offer sheets is when you're a GM that makes them, people around the league hate you. Like people, who was the Edmonton general manager that did that? No, it wasn't McTavish.
Doug Armstrong do it to Edmonton this year.
Was it Chiarelli?
This year.
No, I'm talking back in 2007 for the Penner thing. Like,
it wasn't Chiarelli.
it wasn't Tambellini. It was the guy
Well,
before.
Gates guy
Tambellini.
was the GM in Anaheim for the deal.
Oh yeah, he's the guy.
Brian Burke was the GM.
Oh yeah, remember he threatened to fight the Edmonton Oilers GM in public at a arena, like a legit boxing match, because of the offer sheet to Dustin Penner.
Yeah, Burke talks about it in his book.
Yeah, remember when Bergevin offer sheeted Sebastian Aho, and then Carolina waited, and then offer sheeted Kakaniemi and took him from him? Like, in this league, like, if you are a young GM or a GM that doesn't have good rapport and you start offering sheeting teams remember that. Like, it's kind of like a black sheep in the NHL. Like, you don't offer sheet teams.
Well, it's extremely rare. That's why when Doug Armstrong offer sheeted Dylan Holloway and somebody else from
Philip Roberg.
Yeah, it was like a big deal. Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't think it's like that big of a deal, because
it's not a common thing.
It's like one and off season, if that.
Yeah, there's way too much talk about offer sheets every year. They should offer sheet this guy. They should offer sheet that guy. When it's easier to just work out a trade, it's just easier in the end to work out a trade, and then you don't have to end up with some kind of weird overpriced contract. In the end of the day, this contract where you're overpaying for some guy. Maybe you don't have to overpay for him if you go out and you trade for that guy. You sign him to a more reasonable or market level contract. It seems like a lot of work to get to the same place in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it boils down kind of to this for me. Like, would you give up a first, second, and third to sign Peterka at market value, or would you rather just wait until July 1st and pay Nikolai Ehlers market value and not give up draft picks?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that's a question every general manager has. It's like
the draft picks are always a year out. They're not right away.
They are. Yeah, they're a year out. So
why the hell would I wait a year?
Deal with Buffalo, and you don't give up a first, second, and third.
Yeah. I'll take a first round pick, but also give me a player that can help me this year or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wyatt Kaiser, baby.
Lucas Reichel, my man.
Okay, yeah, I want to touch base on that real quick. Blackhawks fans, don't associate Lucas Reichel's name with trading up. I'm sorry. There's Matthew Darsh or whoever the GM is now in San Jose or anything. No one is looking for Lucas Reichel to move the first or second or overall pick.
He's a top 5 NHL player. Just ask all the geniuses on Twitter.
Why are people like, oh, if you include Reichel in that, then they'll definitely bite?
Reichel in any trade is a throw-in. That's all he is. He's a throw-in.
He's a dump, actually. He's pretty
dump.
much
He's
a
a
cap dump, even
throw-in.
though he doesn't make a lot of money. He's a dumper.
He's not even a smear rolling around with a stick. Yeah.
It's just he scored 8 points this season. Like,
8 goals.
His most effective play was when he was on the fourth line with Pat Maroon and Craig Smith, 2 guys that are no longer with the team.
I'm so tired of seeing tweets and articles being like, well, if you want to move up and you really want to do some damage, throw Reichel in there. I just don't. I don't see anyone.
If it's the trash can, sure. Yeah.
I don't see anyone getting tantalized with the idea of adding Lucas Reichel to your roster. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Well, if you put him on the ice with vintage Mario Lemieux and vintage Wayne Gretzky, he might produce.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You got to put him out there with those guys.
Now, look,
guys are around.
The reality is GMs also all have egos, and they also will say, okay, this kid was once upon a time a first-round pick. We think we can get value out of him. And yes, the Blackhawks are going to consider him a throw-in, but I mean, GMs are going to spin it any way you like it. I mean, so they're going to spin it that way.
Mardo,
if they want him.
Correct.
Right. I mean, I just don't see just a huge want out there.
No, of course not.
Dude, people are throwing around like he's this mega attractive bargaining chip that the Blackhawks have. No. He's not.
Real hockey people know that Lucas Reichel was a reach at the time. And that Stan Bowman went out there and he thought that he was smarter than everybody else and he was going to trump everybody. He was going to show them. But the reality was Stan Bowman isn't that and wasn't that.
He was.
And he did the same thing with Adam Boquist.
He was picked at a time when their director of scouting, Kelly, was it Mark Kelly? I can't remember his first name. Kelly was doing his European scouting over video.
Yeah, it was rough.
You know,
you want a realistic trade trade of Lucas Reichel that gets you value in terms of draft picks, I'll throw one out here. Lucas Reichel in the 34th overall pick to move up to the 31st overall pick. There's your realistic get value for Lucas Reichel thing. That's it, really.
Is that a hockey trade?
He gets you back into the end of the first round if you're trading him this year. And that's about it.
Yep. Lucas Reichel for replacement blades.
Lucas Reichel for Isaac Howard. The trade is 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Lucas Reichel for Peter Regan.
Yeah. Reichel for a Sparks machine.
Peter Regan.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? A Sparks machine is a little more valuable, I would say.
Best thing I've ever purchased.
For me, a Sparks machine, if you could give me one right now, I would give you Lucas Reichel for a Sparks machine.
Yeah. Convenience factor alone. Yeah.
You know, I hate to still be on this topic, but my God, every time I hear
your draft preview,
Lucas Reichel, I lose my mind. Every time I see
Every player
I
drafted.
wish you played for a coach that didn't hate him take, I lose my mind. Like I actually lose my mind.
Just put him.
I'm sorry he got benched for not showing up to work because of his alarm not like turning on. I'm sorry he doesn't like get more productive with more minutes. I'm like I'm sorry that like coaches are just playing him where he probably belongs.
Oh my God, what is this?
Ugh.
He's just trying to make us mad.
No.
Yeah. No.
He's just making me trying to just rage.
No.
I mean, are we sure that that Isaac Howard is not, who's the guy that came out
Jimmy
of Harvard?
Vesey?
Jimmy Vesey.
lot
Everyone's making
better
the
than Jimmy
biggest deal out of this guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty attractive prospect, more so.
I understand that, but so was Jimmy Vesey at the time. But I wasn't impressed with him.
The only thing isn't Howard is he going to be an undrafted free agent, right?
Yeah, he's going back for his senior
Well,
year.
he was a first round pick, but he's unsigned.
Yeah, that's the difference. Those are the two things that everybody gets hyped about that never materializes in anything.
Yeah.
Offers
Here's the thing
and
about
undrafted
trading.
college free agents.
Yeah.
Nothing ever comes of those, but everybody's so excited about those. Myself,
That's what I can think of off the top of my head, where it was a drafted college free agent that didn't sign with the original team that worked out was Justin Schultz, and he only worked out because he went to Pittsburgh. Like he wasn't working out at Edmonton, but
Justin Schultz is a Tanner Kiro. There's a
Kevin
hero.
Hayes.
There you go.
my boy Kiro. What about
I-
Kevin Hayes?
That's what I said, Kevin Hayes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to go back to that trade, I feel like a more realistic version is legitimately just Reichel for Howard, and if they need a sweetener, just be like, okay, Lucas and a third for Isaac Howard. You don't need to give up the 25th.
Yeah.
If Isaac Howard is not going to sign with you, you're just going to get whatever you can.
All right, we're approaching the hour mark. I got trivia this week. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm not deferring to anyone. Because it's James Hagens week, we're going to go since 1981, since they began the Hobey Baker Award. Considering James Hagens might be going back to BC next year as a possible favorite to win the Hobey Baker, there are 3 Boston College Hobey Baker Award winners. One in
What a
1980.
homer. You're a homer.
I'm a homer. I'm from
Boston Andy.
Boston Andy.
Gate will not be allowed
Yeah.
out anymore.
one in 1991, one in 2000, and one in 2014. You guys should get the one in 2014. But who won it in 1991 and who won it in 2000?
Drew LeBlanc. No, I'm just kidding.
Start with 2014. You guys should know this one.
Good
Like-
rope.
Johnny Gaudreau
Yep.
won the
Yes.
Hobey Baker in 2014. 2000, there was a defenseman that won it. Dead puck era. It's actually a point per game defenseman. He played for the Devils for a little while.
Bryce Salvador.
No.
Did he go? Where did he go?
Oh God. Wasn't he like a traded also free agent?
He was a lot.
Wait, you said he played for the Devils. Did he just play for the Devils? Or did he go anywhere else?
Pull him up. I'm pulling him up because I'm allowed to.
I think he was traded from the Blues. Wasn't it?
Why can't I find this now? This is driving me nuts. Oh,
Wasn't
someone's
it-
got some music in the background or something.
I know. I should have brought the sound. Soundboard.
All right, left-handed shot defenseman. 2000 was when he won it.
Was he drafted by the Devils?
Nope, 19 games with the Rangers over 2 seasons, 4 seasons with the Calgary Flames, or 4 games with the Calgary Flames, it looks like.
Who was he drafted by?
NHL. I actually played against him in high school. That's not why I picked him. Fine, go ahead with the Homer stuff, Gate. I'll take it. New Jersey Devils from 2007, 2008 through 2010. Played with the Islanders for 2 years. The Boston Bruins. Ended his NHL career in 2014 with the Florida Panthers.
Nick Leddy? No.
Mike Otto.
Oh, Mike Motto.
Mike Otto. Yeah. And then 1991. I could just give it to you. I don't think anyone's going to get it.
Oh, give us a hint. Give us, who did he play for?
I mean, he bounced around quite a bit.
So, who?
He had 81 points in college, and his NHL career didn't really plan out. He played for the Devils, 93, 2 games, spent most of his time in Utica. So it was in that system. It was with Albany River Nats, played 5 games with the Bruins, came back after being in Europe from 1997 through 2000 and had a cup of coffee with the Florida Panthers for 6 games.
Jason Krog.
I'll never.
That's a good one. 1999.
Wasn't him?
David Emma.
Oh.
Yeah.
Heck, if I know who that is.
He played on the U.S. team
Yeah, it was in the US.
for the Olympics, I believe, in what,
He did
96?
play for the 92 with
92, yeah.
Ray LeBlanc.
Yep.
Remember him? And then LeBlanc played for the Hawks.
Yep.
LeBlanc.
Yeah.
So
One game,
you,
I think,
LeBlanc.
maybe 2.
Yeah.
Chicago Wolves legend Ray LeBlanc.
He wore number 50 before Crow did. It's pretty cool.
Mm.
Yeah. See, I know my Blackhawks more than Boston, Kate. All right, folks. Well, Bardo, great job getting Jonny Lazarus here. That was really, really fun. That was cool. He's smart. He's got good stuff.
Should I invite him to our draft party?
I think you did, dude.
I think he might be busy.
Dang it.
I have a feeling you did. We'll go back and check the
Just have him
recording.
live stream from the draft. Like, hey,
Probably
guys.
did. Yeah. In fact, at one point,
Really fast before we go.
Yeah.
CHSN gives it and takes it away. People who were clamoring for those in Chicago to buy an antenna, the antenna station will no longer be available as of Monday.
Oh, I got to do more climbing.
Just buy an antenna. It's easy.
Yep. Well, now you can't use an antenna if you're in the Chicagoland area. So
I'll use rabbit ears.
for those people, and it's $30 or $20 more a month for Comcast subscribers.
Yeah,
to
so
get.
you still got to pay more. And
You still got to pay more. It's
Yeah.
just going to reach more people. But yep.
What a cluster.
So
all right, folks. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back. I think, I don't know, Jimmy, do you have any more guys that the Hawks are going to take? Probably not.
Next week, I think should be the final one. Next week, we're going to be covering Michael Misa.
Oh, that'll be a good one.
That'll be a
That's
real
going to be a fun one. So I think that should be the last single prospect coverage of our series. And then after that, I think that's the week of the draft or the week before the week of the draft. So from that point on, we can just kind of hodgepodge, talk about what they can do at other picks.
There is a rumor going on out there. It's yet to be confirmed, Jimmy, that you're hosting a draft party the night of the draft.
Oh, duh. I mean, I forgot to mention. Night of the draft, hosted by yours truly, the Rinkcast draft party, live stream, hosted by me. Anyone's invited, but not everyone will be able to get in. I hold the keys, but it'll be a lot of fun. I hope you guys will join us. You'll get live reactions to every single pick.
Hundreds will win.
Oh yeah, we got dozens, I tell you, of people. But, I look forward to it. I hope like
Gigante.
I hope like last year we get a couple trade ups. I have a sneaky feeling the Blackhawks are going to make a couple trade ups in that first round. I mean, when you have when you have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks this year, and then 2 first and 3 first-round picks, 2 first and 3 second-round picks next year. I have a feeling they're going to be trading up. I feel like 3 and 25 are not going to be where the Blackhawks end up at the end of the day. I would put money, like real money, they end up with 3 first-round picks this year, just like they did last year. And I hope we get the live reactions of the Rinkcast members to those trades.
I think they're going to sign someone to an offer sheet. I'm just kidding.
They're going to be Noah Dobson. We're all thinking forward. They're actually going Noah Dobson.
They're gonna move Lucas Reichel for their future.
Yeah.
Future considerations.
Yeah.
3 1s.
Then they're going
I
to
want the live reaction from Ray Napientek. That's what I want.
Wait, Ray Napientek, Lucas Reichel's biggest fan?
Yes. Seth Orr's biggest fan.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff, fellas. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Have a good night. On behalf of Gate, Bard, Jimmy O'Malley, and Sean Fitzgerald, I'm Boston Andy, according to them. But Chicago in my heart. Anyway, have a good one. We'll be back with more. See ya.